Hi guys, we're back here reading Pax. So as you know, they had to leave Pax out in the woods by the side of the road because Peter's now living with his grandfather since his dad went off to fight the war. And so Peter's very unhappy without his pet fox. And he's afraid that since Pax was a tame animal, he's not going to know how to live out in the wild. So he's really getting anxious, and hearing those coyotes howling that night made him really nervous as to whether Pax could survive on his own. So he's packing things up, and we're going to take up where we left off from the prior reading. So Peter finally took a sheet of paper from the pad beside the phone and began a note. Dear Grandfather. Peter looked at the words for a minute as if they were a foreign language, and then crumpled the paper up and started a new note. I left early, wanted to get a good start on school. See you tonight. He stared at that page for a while, too, wondering if it sounded as guilty as he felt. At last he added, Thanks for everything, Peter. And he placed the note under the salt shaker and slipped out the door. On the brick walk, he shrugged on his sweatshirt and crouched to lace his boots. He straightened up and shouldered his backpack. Then he took a moment to look around. The house behind him looked smaller than it had when he had arrived, as if it were already receding into the past. Across the street, clouds scudded along the horizon, and a half-moon suddenly emerged, brightening the road ahead. So as you remember, he has 300 miles, but he's going to cut through the foothills so that now he only has 200 miles. Can you imagine walking 200 miles? He's going to try to walk 30 miles a day. Yikes, that's a lot of walking. Okay, so this next chapter, I believe we're back to Pax's point of view. Pax was hungry and cold, but what had woken him was the sense that he needed cover. He blinked and edged backward. What felt like comforting bars of his pen gave way in brittle snaps. He turned to find the stand of dried milkweed stalks that he'd wedged himself against a few hours before. He balked for Peter and remembered his boy was gone. Pax wasn't used to being alone. He had been born into a squirming litter of 4 kits, but his father had disappeared before the kits had even learned his scent, and soon after that, his mother had failed to come home one morning. And one by one, his brothers and sisters had died, leaving him the only heartbeat in the cold den until the boy Peter had lifted him out. Since that time, whenever his boy was gone, Pax would pace his pen until Peter returned. And at night, he always whined to come inside where he could listen to his human boy's breathing. Pax loved his boy, but more than that, he felt responsible for Peter, for protecting him. When he couldn't perform this role, he suffered. Pax shook the night's rain off his back and headed for the road without even stretching his stiff muscles, straining for his boy's scent. He couldn't find it. The night's wind had swept the ground clean of any trace of it. But among the hundreds of odors rising on the early morning breeze, he found something that reminded him of his boy. Acorns. Peter had often scooped up handfuls and sprinkled them over Pax's back, laughing to see him shake them off and then crack them to get at the meat. The familiar scent seemed a promise to him now, and he trotted toward it. The acorns were scattered around the base of a lightning-struck oak tree, a few full bounds north of where he had last seen his boy. He crunched at a few of them, but found only shriveled, moldy nubs inside. Then he settled himself on the fallen trunk, ears trained for any sound of the road. While he waited, Pax licked his fur dry and clean, taking comfort in the lingering Peter scent he found there. Then he turned his attention to his forepaws, painstakingly cleaning the many cuts in their pads. Whenever he was anxious, Pax dug at the floor of his pen. He always shredded his paws on the rough concrete buried beneath, but he could not control the urge. In the week before, he had dug nearly every day. When his paws were cleaned, he curled them up under his chest to wait. The morning air pulsed with the noises of spring. The long night before, they had alarmed Pax. The blackness had quivered with the result of night prowlers, and even the sounds of the trees themselves, leaves unfurling, sap coursing up new wood, the tiny cracklings of expanding bark, they had all startled him over and over as he waited for Peter to return. Finally, as dawn had begun to sliver into the sky, he had fallen into a shivering sleep. Now, though, the same sounds called to him. 100 times his sensitive ears prickled up, and he almost sprang up to investigate. But each time he remembered his boy and stilled himself. The humans had good memories, so they would come back to this same spot, he thought. But they relied on sight alone, all their other senses being so weak. So if they did not see him when they returned, they might leave again. Pax decided he would stay beside the road and ignore all temptations, including the strong urge he felt to head south, the direction his instinct told him would lead him back to his home. He would stay at this spot by the road until his boy came back for him. Above him, a vulture cruised the thermals. Thermals are like upper warm air. A lazy hunter was searching for the lifeless shape of an animal. When it found the red-furred form of the fox, motionless, but giving off no odor of decay, it circled lower to investigate. Uh-oh. Pax registered an instinctive alarm at the cool flicker of the V-shaped shadow. He jumped from the trunk and scratched at the dirt beneath him. Do you think he's scratching because he's nervous? I think so. The ground seemed to answer with a distant rumble like a growling heart. Pax stretched high, the danger from above forgotten. The last time he had seen his boy, there had been vibrations like this along this very road. He tore over the gravel shoulder to the exact spot where his human had left him. The vibrations grew to a roar. Pax rose on his haunches to be seen. But the source of the rumbling was not his boy's car. It was not a car at all. As it loomed up, it seemed to the fox to be as large as the house that his humans lived in. The truck was green, not the growing green of the trees all around him, but a dull olive green, a color death might wear when it claimed these trees. The same dull olive of the toy soldier the fox had hidden in the milkweed stalks. It stank of diesel, and the same charred metal scent that had clung to his boy's father's new clothing. In a cloud of dust and sprayed stones, the truck charged past, followed by another truck, and another, and another. Pax bounded away from the road. The vulture soared up and away with a single beat of its wings. Poor Pax. I mean, how long can he sit by that road waiting for Peter's car to come back? Whether it does come back. And what's Pax going to eat? He's got to eat to stay alive. And what is he going to drink? He's got to drink. And what else? I mean, he's going to be thinking about predators. I mean, foxes do have predators. And how long is he going to wait? So stay tuned. It's a cliffhanger. All right. Bye-bye.